What's going on, guys? It's KP from Learning How to with KP. Today we are going to be doing the 2017 matric DBE past paper. Without wasting any more of your time, let us begin with question 1. Question 1.1.1. It says x squared plus 9x plus 14 is equals to 0. So what we have to do is to solve for x. Now this is a quadratic equation and we are going to use the factorizing method. So the first thing that we do is multiply x squared and 14, and the product will be 14x squared. So we need to find the factors of 14, to which when we add or subtract they will give us 9, but when we multiply them they will give us 14. The factors of 14 to which when we add or subtract they should give us 9, but when we multiply them they should give us 14. So those factors are 7 and 2. Remember that the biggest number of these factors should take the sign of the middle number, the sign of 9. So the sign of 9 is x, so the big number is 7 and it should take the sign of the middle number. So in this case this is a positive equation, so all of these numbers will be positive because 7 plus 2 will give us 9, and also plus 7 times positive 2 gives us positive 14. So I'm going to rewrite this equation in terms of 7x plus 2x. Okay, let me just erase this part. Okay, so 7x plus 2x plus 14 equals to 0. So I have essentially rewrote this equation in terms of 7x plus 2x replacing 9x. Okay, so 7x plus 2x replaces 9x. So the next step that we need to take is to factorize the first two and the last two. So we are factorizing the first two and the last two. First two and the last two. First two and the last two. So the common factor in the first two is x. So we are going to be left with x plus 7. And the common factor in the last two is 2. So we are going to be left with x plus 7. Okay. So because the brackets are the same, we keep 1, x plus 7 and x plus 2. So the first bracket is equals to 0, or the second bracket is equals to 0. So in that case, x plus 7 equals to 0, or x plus 2 is equals to 0. Therefore x is equals to minus 7, or x is equals to minus 2. So oftentimes you can skip these two steps and continue from here because it's just for 3 marks. I was just doing it for explanation purposes. Okay, so let's do the second question. I'm going to erase quickly so that we do the second question. this is taking so long. It's taking forever, but we are almost done. Okay, we are done. So let us look at the next question, which is question 1.1.2, which says 4x squared plus 9x minus 3 is equals to 0. So like the first question, we have to solve for x, but this question is special. It is different because it says correct to 2 decimal places. So this tells us that we should use the quadratic formula because we cannot factorize it to 2 decimal places. So we are using the quadratic formula, which says x is equals to minus b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So we all know that 4 is a, and then 9 is b, and then minus 3 is c. So let us substitute. Minus 9 plus or minus 9 squared minus 4 and minus 3 into brackets all over 2a, which is 2 multiplied by 4. So at this point we need to take out our calculators and use it to calculate it, the answer. Okay, so I have mine here and it says minus, okay, minus 9 plus 9 square minus 4 into bracket 4 into bracket minus 3 all over 2 times 4. So this gives us x is equals to minus 9 plus 129 over 8. 129 over 8. So let's check the negative part of the equation. Negative part of the equation minus. Okay, so it's the same thing. X, so this is or x is equals to minus 9 minus 129 129 over 8. Remember the question says correct to 2 decimal places, so it has to be minus 2.54. So x is equals to minus 2.54, or x is equals to x is equals to 0.29 to 2 decimal places. 0.29. So we have done it. Now let's move on to the third question, which is 1.3. 1.1.3. Okay, going to erase again. And guys, you should try these questions on your own, and then you can play the video to compare the answers. I will leave my contact details on the description, and also comment. So if you want to stay in touch, you can contact me on WhatsApp or via email, but only regarding school work. So we are doing question 1.1.3. Says square root of x squared minus 5 is equals to 2 square root of x. So also here we want to solve for x, but we are seeing these two monsters called square roots. How do we get rid of them? So what we have to do is to square both sides. Remember, in maths, what you do on the left hand side, you have to do on the right hand side. So in order to get rid of these monsters called square roots, we have to square both sides. So let's square both sides. It's going to be x squared minus 5 square square. Okay, so this square cancels the square root, and we are left with x squared minus 5 is equals to x. You can do it like this if you want, which will give you 2 times 2 is 4, and square root of 3 times square root of 3 is x, so it's 4x. X squared minus 5. So x squared, and we take the 4 to the other side, it's going to be minus 4x minus 5 is equals to 0. And then we use the same method as the first question. So we did the first two questions and we are left with this one. So we are using the same method as the first question. We multiply x squared and minus 5, which will give us minus 5x squared. Okay, and so we want the factors of minus 5, to which when we add or subtract them, they should give us minus 4. So as I see, these factors will be 5 and 1, but which one will be negative and which one will be positive? Remember, I said that of the factors, the biggest number, which is 5 in this case, will take the sign of the middle number, which is minus 4 in this case. So it will be minus 5. So what about 1? 1 will be positive because this sign here is a negative, so it has to be negative times positive, which will give us a negative. Okay, so I will rewrite this equation in terms of minus 5x plus 1x minus 5, which is equals to 0. Okay, so at this point we have to factorize the first two and the last two. Common factor, which is x, we are left with x minus 5, and then the last two common factor, which is 1 plus 1, and then we are left with x minus 5 equals to 0. So because the brackets are the same, we keep 1 and we take x plus 1 all equals to 0. So either the first bracket is equals to 0 or the second one is equals to 0. So x minus 5 equals to 0, or x plus 1 equals to 0. Therefore x is equals to 5, or x is equals to minus 1. Take the 1 to the other side, minus 1. Take the minus 5 to the other side, equals to 5. Okay, so we are done with question 1.1.3. And the lovely thing about math is that you can always check if your answer is right by substituting the 5 or the minus 1 back into the original equation. Okay, so let me cancel, let me rub everything, let me erase everything, and let's do the last one, which is simultaneous equation. Simultaneous equation. So simultaneous equation essentially means that we have to solve for two variables at the same time. So we are solving for x and y at the same time. At the same time, in a sense that in one question. Okay, so I'm almost done, bear with me. Okay, remember, pause the video and try it out on your own. So the question says solve for x and y. So we are given the first equation is to 3x minus y equals to 4, and x squared plus 2xy plus, or is it minus? Okay, it's minus y squared is equals to minus 2. So the most important thing about simultaneous equation is that we have to label our equation. For example, we can label this one as equation 1, so that we can easily reference it when we are solving for x and y. And also we have to make a third equation so that we can easily solve for x and y. And when we are making the third equation, we have to look for the easiest one. In this case, the first one is easy compared to the second one, so we can easily make y the subject of the formula on the first equation. So let's do it. 3x minus y equals to 4. So we want to make y the subject of the formula, y the subject of the formula. So I'll take y to the other side, y, and be left with 3x, and then take minus 4 to the other side. So y is equals to 3x minus 4. Okay, let me erase this part just to save time, just to save space, I mean, and rewrite y equals to 3x minus 4 as the third equation. Okay, so now that we have our third equation, we need to substitute the third equation into the second equation, not the first one, because we got our third equation from the first one, so we cannot substitute it back to the first one. We need to substitute it to the second one. You can't substitute it back to the one that you got it from, so you need to substitute it to the second one, not the first one, because the third equation is derived from the first one, so we need to substitute it to the second one. Okay, so substitute equation 3 into equation 2. So when we see y, we put, okay, so where you see y, substitute minus 3 substitute 3x minus 4. Okay, so let's rewrite the second equation just underneath here. X squared plus 2xy minus y squared equals to minus 2. So x squared plus 2x 3x minus 4 minus 3x minus 4 is equals to minus 2. Alright, so we have to solve for the bracket now. 2x times 3x, 6x squared. 2x times minus 4, minus 8x. And here I almost forgot the square, and we were gonna get the entire equation wrong. So we have to be extra careful, meticulously careful. So let us solve for the bracket. The easiest way to solve for the bracket, or the quickest way rather, is this way. Square 3x, which will give you 9x squared, and then multiply 3x with minus 4, which will give you minus 12, and then multiply that with 2, which will give you minus 24x, and then square 4 minus 4 which will give you 16. Or you can just do two brackets and then multiply them, but this one is the quickest method. So still in the brackets, 9x squared minus 24x plus 16 equals to minus 2. X squared plus 6x squared minus 8x, and then multiplying the negative in the bracket will give you minus 9x squared plus 24x minus 16, and then bring the minus 2 to the other side will give you positive 2. Positive 2 all equals to x. Okay, so now what we have to do is to group the like terms. X squared plus 6x squared minus 9x squared minus 8x plus 24x minus 16 plus 2 equals to 0. So x squared plus 6 is 7, minus 9x squared plus 7 will give us minus 2x squared, and then minus 8x plus 24 will give us plus 16x, and then minus 16 plus 2 will give us minus 14, which is equals to 0. So what we do now is to multiply everything by minus 2. Minus 2. You don't have to show it here. You can just multiply it in your head, and then the examiners will see. Okay, so left with x squared minus, remember minus changes positive to negative, minus 8x plus negative and negative plus 7 equals to 0. 0 divided by minus 2 is 0. So what we do now is to factorize, just like in the first and second and third equation. The first one and this one, we multiply them, and then we'll get 7x squared factors of 7x squared, to which when we add or minus them we get minus 8. So those are 7 and 1. Which one is positive? Remember I said the biggest number of the factors takes the sign of the middle number. So minus 7 will be negative. Okay, and because this is negative 8x, in order to get negative 8x we have to minus 7 with minus 1. So this one is 1. And in order to get plus 7 when we are multiplying, we have to multiply minus 7 and minus 1. Positive times negative times negative will give us positive. So those are our factors. X squared minus 7x minus 1x plus 7 equals to 0. So now what we do now is to, just gonna erase that, is to factorize the first two and the last two. X minus 7, 1x minus 7, because negative and negative gives you positive. And then because the brackets are the same, keep 1, and then you have x minus 1 equals to 0. Okay, so either the first bracket equals to 0 or the second one equals to 0. So x is equals to 7 when you bring the negative to the other side, or x is equals to 1. So we are almost done now. We have our x's, now we are left with y. We have solved for x, now we are left with y. So let's go back. We need to substitute x equals to 7 and x equals to 1 to get the y corresponding coordinates. So we have to use an easier equation that will help us to get our answer quickly. So the easiest one is this one, equation 3. Okay, which says y equals to 3x minus 4. So for x equals to 7, for x equals to 1, y equals to 3x minus 4, y equals to 3x minus 4, 3x 7, 4, 3 1 4. 3 times 7 is equal to 21 minus 4. Then 3 minus 4. 21 minus 4 should be 17. So when x is 7, y is 17. We have already solved for y. And in this case, therefore, y is minus 1. So when x is 1, therefore y is negative 1. So we have solved for x. We have completed the equation.